School District Board of Directors to order at 6 p.m. on November 6, 2023. And the first thing we need to do is the agenda review. And I actually do need to add an item 8C. We need an action to accept the resignation of Katie Messier to the board. So I'm going to add that in for 8C. Does anyone else have anything they want to add or subtract? If not, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next section is the visitors section, and I don't know if we have any visitors that want to speak.
I just posted online.
Okay, so we'll wait for a minute or two. Doesn't look like anyone's coming.
Nobody yet.
Set my stopwatch.
It's hard to know what that minute is.
Yeah. We practice our math. All right, we've been 30 seconds, so. If someone happens to pop on, we know it's. So, looking at the consent agenda, if no revisions are requested, any revisions, I'm going to accept that without objection. All right, and then next thing is reports to the board. And our first one is the student board representatives. So Leah, take it away.
I'm Jacoby Soder. I'm new here, and so we just started school last Thursday. Sophomores came in last Wednesday. The freshmen came in, and we've done a number of things to welcome freshmen in starting last year. But this summer we ran tours, and we're able to show them where their classes are going to be. And I think that was crucial in getting them into the building and familiar with it. And I think that was a good idea. And our new principal, Ms. Rico, is here with us, and she's done a good job so far. Enforcing the phone policy, which is no phones at all during any instructional hour per the Maple Run Unified School District, and also our pass policy. We have done pass to leave the room, not just during enrichment, but during any time, and I think that helps limit the traffic like in the bathrooms and like people that aren't using them for like bathroom purposes. So I think that's like a positive, and I feel like kids are less distracted with doing phone calls as well.
Okay, and my name is Leah Fitzgerald. I see some new faces. I am a senior at BFA. I think the other thing I wanted to touch on was, let's see, some sports have been starting. Powder Puff has been going on, so we're super excited. That's September 30th. If anyone wants to go and support Camp to Compta. So we have a lot of seniors that have been working really hard at practices right now, but it's a really exciting one. It has been really hot out, so there has been a lot of like canceled games, canceled practices, which teachers and coaches and staff are really mindful about because it's really hot at BFA today. I think some of the art room kids had to move down to the library to stay cool, so we're definitely making sure everybody's getting hydrated and staying safe in the school, which is really important. I think, yeah, sports have kick-started, tracks. What did Porter get?
Porter got second at our first race, which was the Essex Invitationals, so that was pretty big.
Which is great. Girls varsity volleyball got their second win. And I would like to make a thank you, I guess, to our new assistant athletic director, Jordan O'Grady, because we've we've been doing like sounds during our warm-ups, and during our introductions for the lineups, which I think just brings a great new excitement to the game to have a bunch of an announcer, and he does this fancy announcing stuff, and it feels so great to be grounded into it. So I think that he's a great addition to the BFA staff, which I really appreciate. And I think that's all.
Thank you. What year are you in? Are you a senior
I'm
now?
a senior. This is my last year. I'm powder puff now.
And,
Oh, you're doing well so far.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm a sophomore.
Okay, you're not gonna live that one down, unfortunately. Thank you for being here.
It's, yeah, of course.
All right, so our next report is the goals subcommittee report. We've got Grant Henderson here tonight, and Joanna,
And Joanna,
Yeah.
and Sue.
and me.
Yeah. Just picking me up. Give some slides.
Right now.
Have the slides here. I guess while those are pulled up, so the background for this, I don't know, a little over a year ago now, we started off on a couple of things. We had governance and we had goals, and I think we rolled out the governance this past spring, and then part of that was kind of you need the content to go along with it. So what is it that we want to hold the organization responsible to? And that's where the goals come in. It's something that Bill had asked for, going back to when he was hired. And so the request to the board at the time was, can we have some organizational goals? And so the board set up this committee to work with the community and whatever resources we had to come up with some recommendations for what those goals ought to be. So if we can get to the next slide, I think there's probably a list of committee members. No? Yeah. So this is the committee that met. Demetrius, Susan, Erica, Ryer for a while. James, myself, Joanna, Christy, and Nakuma. Jesse, I think. So we met, I don't know, probably a dozen times or so over the course of the last year or so, and then in conjunction with the Creative Discourse Group. So some early meetings, we did some brainstorming about the kind of feedback, how we would actually gather feedback. Came up, with the idea of listening sessions, and then kind of in parallel, Creative Discourse Group was also doing listening sessions. So what we did is we provided some questions to them and some topics that we wanted to have covered, and they incorporated that into their listening sessions. And so that's where all that feedback came from. The result of all of that was, I think, 5 main topic areas. So I think on the next slide, we talk a little bit what those might be. Meeting dates, we can get through those. Collaboration with Creative Discourse, so those were their dates. 3 last ones were our dates. And yeah, so here we get these 5 main themes. The feedback was that, I wouldn't necessarily take these as an indictment. Like, it's not that we need improvement here, it's just that we want a school that does these things, right? So we want rigorous academics. And when I say we, this is the feedback we got from the community. Consistent policies, and I think consistent enforcement of those policies. Support services, and it wasn't, again, that the support services were lacking, it's more of how do we communicate. And then opportunities for the family and community engagement, and the community education and action on inclusion. And it's the on inclusion part, I think that's emphasized. So Creative Discourse Group had a report on this, which I believe you guys have, which you can read, and I'm not going to try to paraphrase too much that report. We read that report and didn't necessarily take it all like verbatim. We kind of read that and said, okay, well, what is it that we think should be promoted to the board as a recommendation? And from that, we wound up with 5 goal statements. So the goal statements come up on the next slides, if you want to go to the first one. So each of these goal statements, they're simplified. We did think about what they say, so the wording is important. But there's also like an implementation plan, and we didn't want to get too much into that. Although There was a lot of discussion around it, and that's all captured in the minutes. And Bill was at every meeting. He understands like what the committee would have recommended in terms of how to actually do the work. But as you all know, that's a job for administration and for the organization. And what we wanted to give you were recommendations on goals that would be appropriate at like the board level. So that's what you're seeing here. For every one of these, there is a more detailed, not a plan per se, but more detailed, I guess, recommendations that Bill has on, how they could be implemented. And I guess we can get into some of that if you guys choose to. But number one, and I don't think these are really in any particular order, is there was a kind of feeling that people wanted more rigorous academics, availability of more rigorous academics. The way that we put it is, the goal is for all students to feel challenged and supported to excel in traditional and non-traditional learning opportunities based on their individual needs and strengths. We want curriculum that can adapt to high achievement, right? That can challenge literally anybody in that system can be challenged and supported to excel at whatever level they're capable of. So that was the first recommendation for a goal. The second recommendation, consistent policies to address bias and behavior issues. Maple Run procedures on harassment and discipline are consistently applied while ensuring support and respecting victims and all involved. I don't think this is really, there's not really too much to get into here. I think the consistently applied piece was what the message was from the community on this one. The third goal, next one, support services for students and families. So all students at each school have access to individualized learning opportunities and flexible pathways. This, in a lot of ways, is similar to the first one, but it emphasizes more the support service aspect of it. So the school has a ton of these support services, the community has a ton of these support services. I think the idea was that maybe the school, the MRUSD, could be more active in connecting those with needs to the various services, and to kind of promote the availability of those services. The fourth goal, opportunities for family and community engagement. All community members will have the opportunity to engage safely within the school and district through two-way communication and feel welcome in our system. So if I recall, we have a lot of programs that that are initiated sort of throughout the year, and when those get communicated to the community, a lot of the time I think there was a feeling that it was when they were done, right? And so the idea was more active engagement at the time that things were happening, or more opportunities for two-way communication either with the board or the administration, right? And that could be kind of a overlay on top of maybe some of the other goals. So anytime you're working on another goal, this could be something that you incorporate, would be that level of community engagement. So if there's a initiative to create more engaging curriculum that would be part of goal 1, there could be a community feedback aspect to that, right? And I think even at our committee meetings, it was acknowledged that the community are not the experts, right? The board even are not the experts, right? The experts are within the organization. And so, you got to kind of take that into consideration, but at the same time, the community wanted to be engaged. So, and then the last potential goal here would be community education and action on inclusion. All students have meaningful, equitable, structured, and consistent education that embeds skill building regarding diversity, inclusion, and equity. So this is not our standard, you know, we put equity into practically everything, right? All programs have some equity objective or provision. What this is saying is that, I believe what this is saying is that we actually want to be an organization that promotes like the virtues of equity, of having an equitable system, which is not the same as saying we just have a system that is equitable. So that's, I think, the only really kind of subtle thing about this. I don't want to take too much time on this. I don't think there's, you know, we tried to keep it high level, but I will take questions, or if you need clarification, or if Bill has anything to add, because you were at every meeting too. You can go into it. Anything to add from our other committee members? No?
Thank you, Grant.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Greg.
All right, you're welcome.
The only thing I would add or ask is that for the board, not so much for you, Grant, but the board, we're gonna need the board to consider this recommendation of the subcommittee, and then either adopt these, modify, but get, you know, for us to do the work and to get into strategic planning mode this year, because our current strategic plan sunsets the end of this school year, that there's adopted goals by the board to create a plan too. So, you know, we're going to need to talk about our timeline to do that, and hopefully it's not too far off. I'm actually hoping it's within a meeting or two that we get to adopted goals for the organization so we can start that work.
Thank you, Greg. So the next item is student enrollment. Oh, you're gonna speak to that.
Yeah, the past couple of years, I always give, we've been giving a first day of school enrollment, so there's really a plus or minus 3%. I've been saying to everyone, because during the first 10 days of school, our enrollment really fluctuates. So this is literally taken Wednesday of last week, and taken out of Power School, and then put into these graphs and tables that you see here. Comparing previous year's, what we call the fall enrollment census number, to this year's first day enrollment. So there's a difference overall in the district of 13 less students, or 13 fewer students than we had last year. That doesn't mean that's what we're going to sell out. It just means that's what it was the first day. I've always found in working in organizations that really after the first day, one of the things, because enrollment drives so much of our work, how we're structured, funding, how we deliver instruction, that it's, you know, what's happened and what's it look like. I think the good news for Maple Run compared to most of our Vermont school districts is we are very stable compared to most of the Vermont school districts that was seen a rapid decline. So 13 is a little bit of a loss from last time, but as I say, it's the first day. And I know from talking to all my colleagues at school, there were kids that came back in after that first day of school. So we'll get you the update, and we always do that somewhere in the fall as we get into budget season. You'll also see the trends for the individual schools. The thing I do want to point out, and I think I pointed this out last year, but this year happens to be our second and third grade. We had quite a bit of a dip in our second and third grade enrollment. Don't know why that is. Started as kindergartners during COVID, but it doesn't. Usually we run around 170 to 180 in a grade level up to 8th grade, and then once tuition students come in from other towns, we add another 50 in grade levels. So that's been pretty much our trend for the past several years, where we've kept pretty flat. You know, and that's really been since about 2015, 2016, as you look back at the data. So I don't have much more for you that, but I always think it's worth giving the board some
Yeah.
information.
Questions? No questions? All right. So we're going to move on to new business. The first thing we discuss is an unpaid leave request, and I want to make the, or I'm going to recommend a motion to approve the unpaid leave request for Kayleen Brown as presented. So I'll make that motion if someone can second that.
I'll second.
All right, and now, there's discussion, if you wanna.
I recommend it. I think she's has a child that's due here in November and is looking for maternity leave, so we fully support that. I know that she's worked with our HR department to make sure everything's set up.
Agreed. Any other questions or discussion? All right, so we're gonna take a vote. So Joanna,
Yes.
Nilda,
Yes.
let's see, Jack,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Susan is a yes, Suzanne,
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Am I missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9, 10.
9, 10. Oh, what did I miss? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where's Charlie down there? Okay. So that's by a vote of 9 to 0. That passes. 8 to 0. You're right. That's where I was getting confused. Okay. Stop laughing at me. I know what you're really thinking. All right, so the second item, attachment 8B, the administration recommends a motion to approve the unpaid leave request for Brenda Colonna as presented. So I'm going to make that motion if someone would second it.
I'll second.
Okay, Jack. And now there's discussion.
Yes, I'm either going to ask the board to approve this or reject it. There are two sides to this request, and I really would like to have the board weigh in on it. This person's asking for a leave to go on a vacation during when school's in session. And we have had an increasing amount of unpaid leave requests from staff. And that hampers or taxes the system, especially the personnel that are back at school when that happens. At the same time, we have a hiring crisis that we all know about and talk about. I'm going to talk more about in our superintendent's report, which is hard to get people. And we have a risk of losing someone that we wouldn't be able to replace because of low applicants. So I either will recommend it or ask you to reject it. But I would like to hear the voices of the board and how you would weigh in on this type of personnel where we've been going down the road of more people asking for unpaid leave requests for reasons that aren't part of the school calendar, and it's outside the number of personal days they have. So Susan and I talked, and we both, I'll speak for myself, I thought it was a good one for us to talk about, coming off our retreat, about talking about operations and some of the struggles we sit in. So this is one of those struggles.
So, Jack.
Are there extenuating circumstances, like a spouse got a once in a lifetime opportunity or something that was very unusual?
I haven't heard anything like that.
It's just typical vacation.
I've heard
I'm
that
sure
they've
the
arranged
rest
it
of
with
it-
some friends to go to Greece and they're with their family, so.
So what do you think? What do you think? So,
Well, I'm probably not in favor if it's just kind of a choice they make, you know,
yeah.
and they know what the school calendar is. But I've also seen examples of someone who's got a once in a lifetime thing because of some circumstance with a family member or a spouse or whatever. And that's different. You know, I like to look at the circumstances, but if it's just a regular vacation or a choice they make,
Yeah, for me, I guess it's hard to know based on this. Is it a regular vacation, or is it, or is it once in a lifetime? For me, it'd probably be once in a lifetime. So it's, from an emotional standpoint, I'd say, but from a, when we look at it from an administration standpoint, or how it might affect the school and everything else that's going on, that's a different story. What do other people think?
Well, in reading this, it says this would not require additional funding for coverage in my absence, so.
Right. So what do you think?
No. I mean, they knew the school was starting, I mean, this is like a last minute plan, you know. I don't know.
We got this before school started, I will tell you that. As you can see, this is August.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, I was like,
Is it Nilda?
Nilda.
Does anybody know the answer to this, maybe Bill? If we approve this, does that set a precedent? I think it does.
Well, that's why I said, I think we've been going down the road of more and more unpaid leave because we felt the pressure of trying to hold on to people. But there's also, the question that goes in my mind is, and not about this person, but about the system. As you said, precedent, how much leeway are we giving to people to keep asking for unpaid leave? And that continuing is that hampers the organization, so.
All right, thank you.
I was wondering if this was a normal occurrence, something that people requested this many days off.
Not usually.
No.
It's abnormal. When I say we've been getting more of these,
Yeah.
it's probably in the single digits now, where it used to be, like last year I had 2 that coincided with vacation. A good example is, and I'm actually gonna go through this myself, my daughter's gonna be in Spain, as you and I talked about, next semester, and I'm gonna try to take 2 days prior to the vacation to get to Spain and back, because she's over there for school. And that's that one in a lifetime versus how much, but we're also seeing, I'm seeing more and more of this, I'm trying to think of a word that's not as intense as expectation, but almost like, hey, I could take some unpaid leave and keep my job when we have a school calendar, and this is when we do the work.
then you let one person do it.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, the numbers have slowly increased. We're not above 10 people a year. And usually they aren't for this type of time. But like I said, I can see the positives and the negatives in this. And after our retreat and the discussions we had about operations, I thought this was a good one for us to talk about. So I had a good sense of where the board was in this.
Has she worked for the district for a long time?
She has. I don't have the time. You, that,
2004.
2004.
So this leave starts on October 2nd, meaning that, my instinct is I'd like to know more about the why for it. It mentions family, but I don't know if it's just there's family over there. I don't feel good saying, yeah, go ahead and take an international vacation in the middle of the school year, but there may very well be more reason why. If we were to ask for more information for this, is that something that could be supplied by the next board meeting?
It could be.
And under the understanding that it also, waiting that long very possibly messes up her travel plans.
And the place that I get sometimes is that I get a lot as a superintendent, trying to interpret the why gets me into a subjective place.
Yeah.
There's no policy in place regarding.
Well, there's their leave, there's actually a contract, a master contract for the ESPs, which they can ask you for an unpaid leave. They can come to the board if it's beyond 5 days, and that's what started this. And so you have the responsibility to, according to the master agreement, to approve or deny unpaid leave requests.
And
Question,
go, Nilda.
you have to backfill those 11 days, right? Wait, or no?
Most likely we have to have someone there to do the work.
Right,
She says it
So-
doesn't, but we have to look at that.
so it's actually costing us additional money to cover that absence. I'm just looking at it as a point, not necessarily one way or the other, but. Thank you.
Becky, do you have something that you were gonna call? Okay.
So, Joanna?
If it's
unpaid, then it's not money out of our pockets. It would be like we'd be paying that person.
Right, so the backfill we're paying either way.
Oh, yeah. Good point, Joanne, sorry.
It's okay, just clarifying.
Do we know if we have the staff to fill that position?
Well, I'm gonna be telling you in the superintendent's report, we're not able to fill positions right now, so staffing's an issue.
I guess my concern with this also is that, you know, again, thinking that it would be different if this was planned rather than less than, or we'd given, you know, less than 2 months' notice, you know, 6 months, I don't know if people do that, you know, plan trips that far in advance, but, you know, I'm also thinking we would have had bigger consideration if it wasn't, you know, well, a month from now. So, any other discussion?
I have another question.
Okay.
So this is a paraprofessional, whatever it's called, that contract that we're trying to follow, right?
Yes.
Did you say 5 days that you take and just with your approval as
That's
superintendent?
That's correct. Or the principal, it's
Okay.
actually the principal's approval.
So this is a total of 13 days. Would there be any value to coming up with some sort of metric that said, okay, after 5 days you have to ask the superintendent, which can't exceed X number of days, whatever that is, or are we bottlenecking ourselves too much?
So the contract actually states that after 5 days, I've gotta come to the board. So I'm following the metric that you signed on to with the ESP Association.
Right. Yeah, I guess I was just trying to add another step in there somehow, even if it's just an operating step that we follow.
Yeah.
That allows us to, you know, have some latitude, but it's a tough one. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In there it says that they're willing to use sick time. Is that something they can do?
They're not following the contract if they're using sick time for vacation purposes. Holly, do you have anything to add?
Well, I'm sitting over here because, as some of you know, I used to sit on a school board and we had this exact same situation. And then it was really difficult of becoming an arbiter of what's an important event and what's not an important event. And so that was the rub, right? And so then do you approve it all or do you not approve any of it, right? And so then we kind of had morphed into that the board would not approve. Somebody brought that up like over X days, like no matter what the situation is, right? But I've been down this exact process where it's like, it's a tough call. I will say that this person's spouse is retired, so I think they kind of just run off a different schedule as far as like vacation time. So yeah, it's a tough call. I can't help. Sorry.
Right, and just to dovetail on what Holly's saying, and I think maybe Charlie started to address this, when we ask questions like, would we need to get a refill for that, you know, a sub for that person? Well, if we have that position in the first place, then we should need a sub. Is that position subbable? And, you know, then you're getting into equity issues in terms of what position is okay to be gone for 13 days versus another position that's not okay to be gone for 13 days. So it's tough.
I mean, I would quite frankly hate to promise someone with a trip to Greece, but I also don't like the idea of rubber stamping every large, vacation trip in the middle of the school year, because that seems like then we're opening the door to a lot of potential absences because, you know, because we gave one person 2 weeks in grace, then what's the difference between, you know, another person asking for 2?
You know, the Northeast Kingdom.
Or the North, yeah, I mean, I guess the location doesn't matter as much as the time per se. Like, I would really hate to say no, but there's not enough information for me to say yes, in my opinion.
But we're asking students to, you know, have attendance and, you know, so it's kind of like a.
Yeah, there's a degree
Yeah.
to which, yeah, it's practicing what we preach, and we
Yeah.
tell students that they should be there.
All right, so, you know, I think that we can vote on this tonight, or we could ask for more information. I don't know if more information would be helpful in making this decision for people. Part of me feels like I have enough information. But what do people think? I mean, quite honestly, let's see, today's the 6th, so we're talking, you know, if we wait until the 20th to make this decision, she's got 2 weeks to, you know, say yes or no, and my guess is, you know, unless they have insurance, you know, it's gonna be short notice to say, sorry, you can't do it.
Me again.
Okay, I was just gonna ask you, what do you think?
Well, what I was gonna say is, can't remember what I was gonna say, no. I think that asking for additional information, while the thought is good, what do we think we're gonna get that we can't kind of figure out, all right?
Yeah.
Great. I mean, does anybody have an example of what that would be?
I know, and I guess, especially for me, I'm thinking about kind of what happens to me if I'm asking for time off, you know, on short notice. And trying to put that all in context. You guys want to take a vote? I'm going to call for a vote, if that's okay with you, Nilda.
You're gonna call for what?
A vote, if that's okay with you.
If I don't have a problem with it.
Can
I just don't want to do the voting.
No one does.
I get clarification before we vote? I'm assuming that, I'm assuming that the information in the letter is basically, all the information is that there's just, you know, she's just taking a trip. And, you know, not for any sick family member or anything else that would be mentioned otherwise. But if we vote it down and then, look, she comes back with a extraneous circumstances, would that be up for consideration again? Or is this a?
And can she appeal?
You are the final decider. And I hear your intent, Charlie, of trying to be nice. I have tried to be nice throughout, I'm looking at Mike, but I've been trying to be nice throughout my career. And I have found sometimes trying to be nice, I'm actually being mean to many people.
That is fair.
And not being clear. Clarity is one of the best things that you can do as a leader for everyone in the organization.
All right, so to answer my question, this is the end of the line for this,
This is the end of the line where it comes to.
All right, so just to review, I will take a vote, if that's okay with you, Nilda. And that the request is that the board approve the unpaid leave request for Brenda Colano as presented. So if we say yes, then we're approving it. If we say no, then we're not approving it. Alrighty, so Nilda?
So I'm going to abstain because I do have additional information on this because I'm familiar with some of the background.
Okay,
Done.
Joanna?
No.
Jack?
Just a point of order, has there been a motion? Oh, there
It
has
wasn't
been.
Yeah.
again.
Right.
So and the motion was to approve the unpaid leave request.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just
That's okay.
didn't hear that. So, no.
Shirley,
No.
Amanda? No. Carly?
No.
Carly, I forgot to put your name down, that's why I was so confused last time. Susan, I'm gonna say no. Suzanne?
I'm also gonna say no.
Jess?
No.
So by a vote of 1, well,
7.
there's 1 abstention, and then there's 7 no votes. Alrighty, so we're gonna move on to the next business. And that is the follow-up discussion for our retreat.
No, the St. Albans Town.
The St. Albans Town, yes.
We,
So first we need to take act.
I was gonna say, would it make more sense to move, I think you had me on this one.
Well, so it's 8C, which is, we first need to take action to accept the resignation of Katie Messier.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make that motion that we accept the resignation of Katie Messier. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And I'm gonna take a vote. So Nilda,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Susan is a yes, Suzanne,
Yes.
and Jess.
Yes.
That's 8 votes, so we accept that. And the next thing we need to do is discuss the St. Albans Town representative appointment to take Katie's place.
You have an idea?
So my idea was this, that we should open it back up to the public, the way we did last time. We need to advertise it. And then also maybe personally, or reach out personally to the 3 people that we didn't accept. The 3 other folks, I think there were 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just let them know also that this position, there's another position open. So, what do people think of that?
Will they won't have to come back, we'll just go on, or will they? 'Cause we have
So,
people.
they won't necessarily have to come back and be re-interviewed, I suppose, unless they want to. But we would have to interview any other people. Right.
Well, even for the folks who we've interviewed before, we have 2 people who weren't,
Oh, true.
who weren't present
Yeah.
before those.
That's good, yeah.
I mean, as much as it's hard for them to come back a month later and do the
Great.
interview again, I think
That's true, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Do you mean board members that were not here for the interview?
Well,
Okay.
so two people who were not here and didn't have the opportunity to be here. I know you were-
Okay, I was not here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 3 people total, but you had a very solid list.
No, but we did have a transparent conversation with everybody.
You mean the people that we were interviewing?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, with the board.
Yeah, okay. Nilda?
Yes. I support the idea of doing interviews again. I think what we have to be careful of at the board is when we speak to the prior applicants, there's no promises made. They're coming in as clean as everyone else is and have to just do it again.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
that makes sense to me. So, it's gonna be advertised?
We would advertise, yeah, I think Aaron's ready to go, I haven't asked him, but he's given me that. Social media, on forum, website.
Okay,
Yeah,
and we would kind of organize it the same way we did
Yeah.
last time?
we've set up a
Okay.
timeline like we did last time, I'll talk with all of you, and
Okay,
maybe we could set some time at the next board meeting for interviews, if that
okay.
were a possibility. If we think 2 weeks is enough time, if the board thinks 2 weeks is enough.
For people to respond?
For people to respond.
Yeah, I think so, probably.
Good. All right, I see a lot of head nods, so.
All right.
So we'll put that together, get it out, let you all know about that. I will tell everyone that one of the people that we interviewed last time already reached out to me, that heard this happen, and said they were interested, wanted to be considered, but I said I would forward that information to the board.
And again, that's just filling her seat till next March.
Till March, that's right.
Alrighty, so now we're on to the discussion about the board retreat. So I think everyone has, I'm just pulling mine up. Pull it somewhere. So everyone has the the recommended operating protocols from the VSBA in their packet, and then also the governance of standard evaluation in their packet. And I guess what I'd like to do for the next meeting is to take action on those, to adopt those as our operating protocols and our standards for self-evaluation. What do people think?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, and then we can also, you're gonna send out a Google link so we can complete this.
Yeah, what I would do is once it's adopted, Aaron's already created a Google form that you can all, because what you talked about at the retreat was trying to get a baseline of where we are now via these governance standards. And so you would have a chance to, after you adopt them, I think it was appropriate to adoption, and then we'll give you, right after that meeting, we give you the form, and you all self-evaluate. We have that now, and then somewhere in, probably in the spring, do that again. And see what's happened after your actions. It's the best way to collecting data of the work you set for board goals, which you're gonna talk about in a few minutes here, how those have affected your governance.
Okay, so we can take that as an action item, or both those as action items for the next meeting. And then one of the things that Bill and I talked about was scheduling board work meetings, work sessions. So I propose that we hold work sessions of the board to develop a board orientation and a yearly schedule of annual review of policies, monitoring we might have to have a couple of these board sessions, monitoring of the district and board goals and community engagement opportunities. So my first, knowing that we're all busy, I was thinking maybe if we could get together an hour ahead of time before the next meeting where we could just have a work session to help develop the board orientation and yearly schedule the annual review of policies, etc. What do people think? Questions?
I would normally be all for that. My work schedule for September is difficult, so I can't guarantee that I'd be able to make it September 20th an hour at a time. I'll definitely try, but not something only because of this month that I would be able to guarantee.
Could we put out like a doodle poll, put out a couple of dates and figure out what's best?
I mean, the thing you and I talked about is really having some work time. What you and I said we both heard from the board was we want to do some work ourselves. And Joanne, I think it was a conversation you and I had as you were helping me take things down to bring back here to the central office, was like, let us do some of the work. Like, it's nice that you help, Bill, but we need to do some of this work ourselves. So, and I got that from the retreat too. It wasn't just from Joanna. So it was, how can we provide some work sessions? And it doesn't necessarily need to be a quorum of the board. We have to warn it, but it's work. It's not like you're approving anything. You're just getting work done. And it doesn't create a subcommittee. That's one of the things we talk about is we don't create more subcommittees. Just time for you to work as a group together and then bring that back for action in the board meeting.
So
I would also suggest that, some of those work sessions can be done virtually, right? So you can still be home. But, having a Zoom call and getting some work done. And also just delegating some work that can be done between meetings as well. So just identifying and delegating work. So we have a little bit more ownership, more understanding, and working knowledge of, some of the stuff.
Alrighty. So, how about we send out a doodle poll to figure out a couple of times that work best, and then we'll go from there?
And I would say the first one is, initial is setting up how we're gonna do this.
Yeah, okay.
That's really the accomplishment for the first, not necessarily doing the work, like planning all those things, but like, it's kind of planning, how are we all gonna do this? Because when you're trying to coordinate a bunch of people, you gotta figure that out.
Okay.
You good? Okay.
Nilda, did you have anything to add?
No, I'm set.
Okay. All right, and then the last thing is review of the draft board goals. What do you say about that?
Well, Tracy wrote these up for you, and you had received a memo that was in your packet from her, and she did a great job of trying to say what she heard from you would be board learning and growth, monitoring the goals of the organization and the board, and a communication and voice. And so she really pointed to when you sit down as a group to think about board goals, to look at this document in chapter 5. And you all have access to it through the board site, but if you need a paper access, let Aaron know, don't let me know, so I'll probably forget as he services you, but let Aaron know, and we can get you a printed copy. I actually use the printed copy quite a bit, but just really to start from something for all this work, VSBA has laid out some good work. And if there isn't, there's the National School Board Association, which has toolkits for all 3 of these areas, for how you do that. So you might as well start, instead of recreating the wheel, start from work that's already been done.
Sounds good.
And so I think at the next board meeting, you would adopt district goals and board goals. So you state what they are, and then plans can be figured out on how to get there. That would be my proposal to you as a board. Joanna smile.
So we're gonna, at the next meeting, looking to adopt our district goals, the organizational goals plus board goals,
Yeah,
and then we'll have to figure out how to,
I think your work session.
yeah,
Yeah.
implement them.
Yeah.
Hoping you're getting all this, Erin.
Yeah, I got it.
Can I make one more?
Sure.
So, I would be willing to take one of those goals and come up with some language for a goal. If other people wanted to take one of the other 2 goals, because then we could bring that forward to that next meeting.
What do people think? I think that's a great idea, Joanna. Anyone willing to take?
I'll take the communication one, please.
So you're talking about, or more, just looking at that communication goal and coming up with a plan for that?
Well, I would say coming up with language for a goal.
Okay.
This is
Yeah, I would imagine we'd get together in our work groups to come up with the objectives and next steps.
So when you talk about, you're gonna take the communication one, that's number 3C on the, okay. I'm willing to take a shot at 3A if someone else is willing to take a shot. So that's to board orientation, annual review, to support all board members and understanding the roles and responsibilities of the school board, key policies, and strategies and supports for community engagement, communication, and problem solving. That sounds like a lot. Who's gonna work on that one with me? Anyone? Paris. Nilda, you and I can work on that one together.
I'm happy to do that, because that's the one I want to work on, so.
Okay, good. All right. So if anyone else would consider, and maybe this is enough to start with, but if anyone else would consider looking at developing and implementing a plan for monitoring the district's project on the district goals, activities, on district's 5 goals, and then monitoring activities will intentionally include data and evidence, as well as the voices and perspectives of multiple stakeholders. If anyone else is willing to, I don't want to put anyone on the spot.
I'm willing to support you, because that's a lot of, that
Okay.
goes into the district piece,
Okay.
into the district goals, but I'm willing to support someone on that.
People can let me know, I suppose. Leah, you look like you're stepping up to do it.
I would love to. I think, is that what I was thinking is, does that make it work subcommittees though?
No, so we're gonna do a work session, I think, that's just gonna kinda, so we'll, at our work session, we'll try and present this language, you know.
Are we allowed to be in that work session? I don't know.
I think you are, yeah. We just need to
I-
make sure you're on the doodle poll of when you might be available.
So we're talking about the 5 sub-goals.
Because that will be
Monitoring,
included.
monitoring them. It's
Okay.
about monitoring the district goals that Grant
Yeah.
presented
those.
tonight.
I'm probably most interested in the reporting ones, that, the second goal. What else?
We'll include the both of you on a doodle poll. Charlie, you were gonna say something.
I was going to volunteer to.
That's
help work on
fantastic.
that. But now I'm gonna rescind that, no, I'm just kidding.
All right, so we have those covered.
No, I'd be glad to help with that, because that's some scheduling between district work and the district goals. Just kind of, it's more, I don't want to necessarily say how to do it, but there's also knowing kind of some of the cycles that happen within the school system. There's just some of the operations will affect that.
Any more discussion on the retreat? Alrighty, then I guess we're gonna move on to warrants. So, the administration recommends a motion to approve the warrants, acknowledging that the passage of this motion will act as authorization and signature of any individual board members participating. So, I'll make that motion if someone will second it. Second. Okay, Susan and Suzanne. All right, so we're gonna pass those around.
Yep, there's fair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your win. So,
Hi there.
Bye.
I think,
yeah.
give a good push.
So we need to take a vote on the warrants, on the motion that I just presented. So, Joanna,
Yes.
Nilda,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Carly,
yes.
Susan, yes, Suzanne,
Yes.
Jess.
Yes.
I think I got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so those all pass. Next item is the superintendent's report.
Thanks, Susan. I'm going to be a little long-winded here. I've got a couple of things to talk about. The first thing I wanted to say was I was really excited after our retreat. I think the board did some great work there, and that was evident tonight of some of the things that you're starting to tackle with monitoring and policies and governance and how you govern. I wanted to let you know a little bit about what I heard. Because I think that's really important. I didn't want to get that into when you were talking about your retreat, but I wanted you to hear from me what I heard, and then you can tell me if I heard you correctly or not. Well, one of the things in that retreat that really became evident to me was something the board was wanting and there was a need for, and Tracy really kind of helped us in that conversation, was about knowing how the school district operates. You know, we all assume we know how it operates, but how does that really operate? And whether it's at the school level, whether it's at the district level, whether it's at the classroom level. So in tonight's board, in that retreat packet that was in there, you saw there was a suggested schedule for reports and board work and other operational things. And if you start to look at that, and I'll explain this more later, there's parts in there to really kind of go over the operations. And when we're at the buildings, I was talking with Kelsey today. You heard from all the principals last meeting, there are great updates that happened in the buildings. And it'd be nice just to see some of the buildings, but also talk about maybe an aspect of operations to give you an idea of what goes on. Because one of the things that's said, at least in education circles, one of the great things about education is everyone's gone to school. One of the things that can be tough in education leadership is that not everyone's run a school or understand what it is to operate a school. So and what came out of the retreat, I was like, we need to know more about operations and what's going on. Not in a way to micromanage, but just so we know and we can talk to it when people ask us about it. So trying to develop a schedule for you on that. The second thing I wanted to say about that we didn't get to at the retreat, but I think I need to have a discussion with the board, and I don't want it tonight, but is to talk about the format of these meetings. Through COVID, we went remote, and before COVID, all the administrators came to every meeting. Tonight, I asked representation of each of the board, and I asked Becky to be here because of some of the topics that were on the agenda. But I think we want to get a little clearer about the purpose and attendance, so that we all just know. It's not like, so why is there representation from every building here tonight? I think we should work on that together as a team. So we're going to try to do that. And then the other thing I heard was more communication, which I'm going to do tonight a little bit. I was hoping, but I haven't gotten it started yet, was trying to give you a written report. As I said to some of you in the conversations, one of the things that I take probably as my highest priority as your superintendent is to protect this organization. So I know I heard from some of you, like, we want to know what you're struggling with. I can tell you some of the things I struggle with, but we're also in open session where and there may not be a reason to go into executive session. And if I were to say it in an open session, it could put the district at risk. So I am willing to talk with you and individualize and have those discussions. What I have to do is keep a track of what I do, so every member gets the same information. But I also have to protect this organization. That to me is like really sacred to me as a superintendent. And sometimes that's hard because of the work. And it's not wanting to keep things from you. If it looks like I'm trying to keep things from you, it's not that. It's protecting the organization. So, and sometimes that comes off as me being rough or not giving the information. It's not because of that. It's really trying to protect. Because education is a very litigious business. It's very, very and there's lots of chances for high risk for the school district. So that's what I heard. I hope I got it right from what I heard that night. I see a lot of nods, so I'm hoping I'm hearing. If you think I didn't, you want to say it now, or you want to talk to me privately, I'm more than willing to hear that and try to get it right. Because that's my goal, is to get it right for you as a board, to really serve you and the community and my colleagues. So that's what I got. That's the first part that I wanted to let everyone know. I wanted to let, kind of going in, we've really started off positive. I think it's been a really positive start in Maple Run this year. I can say for this is my 5th year. I was actually surprised that I got a 5th year taken back at convocation when my colleague Becky called my name for 5th year at Maple Run. I kind of lost count of that. But it's just been really a positive, really, really positive start. I started the fall before the pandemic started. And I just see it everywhere, from kids to teachers to parents. Saw some great things in Mike's classroom with some nice connections made. One of the great things that I really see. Sorry to call you out there, Mike, but I saw that in every classroom.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. I saw it across BFA. Everyone starting out with connections and really getting to know each other. I saw that in every school, everywhere I went. Even saw some of that today. So people are really trying to take that relationships first piece that we talk about. One of the things that you helped enact was policies on safety protocols and visitor entrances. You did that, you knew that we had to do that because of the state law that was passed. We did that back in July. We're starting to get more procedural detail from the agency that's just started to come out. You may get questions about options-based drills, which is state language for, our language locally is run, hide, fight. So when you're going into lockdown and someone has to make an option, a call with the kids about, do we hide, do we run, do we fight? And that has to be trained everywhere according to the law. So we're going to be starting to do that. We have to do that twice a semester. We literally got the information on Friday.
And is that training, does that involve administrators and teachers, or is that involve kids?
It's going to involve kids now too.
And even at the
It's age appropriate is what it says, but kids have to be involved.
My sour expression is because of the world we live in. So,
Yeah. I could join you in that, Charlie.
Yeah.
I could join you in that. But it is what it is, and it's where we're at, and it's what the state has told us to do. And unfortunately, the rollout's a little slower than they had promised. They're trying to get on top of it. So I just wanted I'm going to use your expression a little bit, Charlie. I wanted you all to know that, because that's going to start happening. And the parents and family members may be contacting all of you. It's for you to know, like, hey, this is something, this is where Vermont is turned to.
And there's gonna be lots of community information about that, so
Yeah.
parents know well ahead of time.
Yeah.
Talk to
Yeah.
them about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll know the days that it's gonna happen.
Not necessarily. It's about that it's going to happen, not the days, because I could tell you that, I don't want to get too far into it. Again, this is not putting me at risk, but one of our concerns is people knowing when we're outside the building with 1,000 people. And that's as much as I'll say on that.
I just think how scary it was as a parent, being in the kindergarten classroom, when having some of these drills. At that time, it was just hiding under the desk, but it was terrifying for me, so I just can't imagine what it was like for 5 and 6 year olds.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about the way some kids, especially ones who are very high strung or.
So I want to say this, one of the things it does talk about being trauma sensitive in the training, and parents know that's happening, and so if parents have concerns, they can contact their school. But I also want to tell you, you have highly skilled educators in their buildings. They know how to work with kids with trauma. They know how to work with kids that have anxiety. They know how to make adjustments for that, and they will. So I hear your concern, but I want you to know you got a great staff. They know how to do that. That's why that's why they're educators. They know their kids, and that relationship that I started with talking about, that's the key, is knowing that relationship with that kid. So, and that's why the legislation was written that way, was like, make parents aware of this, and if you have concerns, talk to your teacher, kid's teacher. On that, this is Safety Awareness Month. Our safety committee has done a great job of putting together awareness activities. They're mainly on social media. Maybe a few others. I want to get a letter out just to the community saying, hey, this is what we did. This is Safety Awareness Month. We take it very seriously here. So keeping kids safe is our #1 objective. And we're going to be releasing information on it. So I think, Aaron, you started some of that already, or is it starting later on this week?
The first post on Instagram.
Yeah, so you'll see Instagram, Facebook, and on the website, so it's all those areas.
Am I able to touch on that from what I've seen today, earlier today?
Yeah.
There's just some concern around, like, I guess, drop off, pick up, law enforcement, or someone to enforce, like speeders and just.
If you see that that there's that
People
type
at
of,
that time, during that time.
yeah, if you see that there's something like that or know that, let me know, and I can talk to, we're actually, the police department is in the final stages of interviews for the DLO. Person in that position, Lieutenant Tally's around, but we can let them know and have
So
some
they would be
support.
the ones probably to do.
We'd have them there if we start to see issues. I know that last year there was support asked for and some of the drop off and pickup for traffic issues on grounds, but, 2 of our schools are right on Route 7, so, and I should say 3 are on state highways, because Fairfield's on 36, and there can be some fast driving where there shouldn't be, so I'd be glad to, and I would say to all my colleagues, they know if they think they need something to call them, but glad to hear more about that. Yeah. Kind of moving on from the safety piece is to email communications. I informed the board, I don't remember when, it was this spring or this summer. A letter's going to be going out to parents tomorrow, just trying to clarify our expectations of our staff in response, and that we're asking all the professionals to use within 2 school days to respond back to an email. It may be, hey, I haven't had time to think about this, but at least acknowledge that the receipt has happened and that that's happened. We're also asking families to understand that during school day, our staff, almost 90% of the day are working with kids. So we want them not to be responding to email during the day and focusing on the kids in front of them. And so that we're really trying to have that two-way place of, if you don't get a response, doesn't mean you need to keep responding. If you don't get one after 2 days, you should expect one. And so we just really want to clarify our communication system and how that's working.
And if people are taking, like, I don't want to say a leave, but let's say they know they're going to be out for 2 days because their husband's having surgery or something, do they do those out-of-office replies?
I see that within our colleagues. I don't know how that happens with every individual teacher, because that's not generally true, but I mean, there are those that are out, and I have seen when a teacher's out for an extended period that this is who to contact. So
I'm just thinking, so parents, if someone was out.
if someone was out for an extended period,
Yeah,
so
parents
I'll
would
work that out with my colleagues over there, and I see some nods of yes, that does happen.
Some do, like we had some this summer that opted not to partake in communications during their break, and they had set their email up that had said, I'm currently on break.
Yeah.
I'll be answering emails after this date. If you have more concerns, contact the front office. And I think also we have a baby boom at city schools this year. And so a lot of those people have also started planning. We've talked about that so they're not compelled to check email while they're dealing with the baby.
We just want to be clear about communication paths,
Right.
because that just helps. It's back to what I said earlier, that clarity of how it works is better. And then 2 more things, sorry, I'm taking way too much airtime, but the district, I just want to let you know, because I let you know when we change procedures. We have, as you know, we have an in-district elementary school choice, where up to 10 people each year can elect to apply, and if they have more than 10, we go into a lottery. After 5 or 6 years, and I want to thank Jason Therian and Stacy Relix, they really helped with this. But there were areas that weren't as clear. This is what part of the merger. It came about at when the merge happened. And so we just clarified some procedures. The biggest one was school of origin. So if you start, we have a lot of families that might start in town and then either move to Fairfield or city but want to stay in town. And what does that school of origin mean? But we also have some families that might have started in school, moved out of the district, or unenrolled their kids, and then have come back after a couple of years. So we said that if you want to enroll your kids from Maple Run, that your school of origin resets. So that school of origin always stays as long as you stay enrolled in Maple Run. Doesn't matter if you switch schools, but you stay in that. You stay as long as you're a resident. That was the biggest thing. Someone was clarifying what happens with staff, students, and how they're considered as part of the school choice. But these are all under the procedural places. If you want copies of those, we can send those to you. we sell the red line versions or the facilities.
Sure.
Yeah, so if you want those, just fill out myself. And the last thing, a struggle that we're having right now is staffing. At the beginning of every school year, we have new students that enter the district, and some of them come with staffing requirements. We also have new things that students have had new needs over the summer, and we're still not fully staffed, especially on our ESP staff. And at the same time, we don't know down to the nickels and dimes of how much we spent on staffing until 2 weeks after the first payroll, because we don't know what benefits people elected. And benefits are about 30% of the cost of an individual staff member. So I was talking with principal and assistant principal today, and they put it really well. They've been telling their staff, like, yeah, I have these needs, can we get somebody? And they said, it's not that it's a no to your request, but we don't know where we are with staffing yet at this point until we get through that first payroll and all the benefits have been processed. Because new staff do not have to elect their benefits until the first pay, until September 1. Am I right on that, Becky? It's September 1. And so we have to put all that together and say, so what's left in the staffing lines or outside the staffing lines if we need to add new staff? That's forgetting the hiring environment that we're in right now. So you might hear from some people that, hey, my student's IEP is not being fulfilled, or there isn't staffing for that. And this is the settling out period of that, and that happens in September of every year. You may hear like, hey, they're down staffed, we're trying to find people. I know Becky is, she's been talking with many of the principals about really putting a big social media blitz out there and a campaign for adding staff. I'm sorry, I didn't ask you this up front, but do you remember offhand where we are for positions, and ESPs especially?
I don't know that.
Okay. I think we're in the 20s to 30.
I would say that sounds.
Yeah, across the district that we're down. So it's a struggle. Becky's done a lot of work of looking about what we pay for equivalent jobs, and she keeps coming back to me, we're in the ballpark. It's not like we're extremely low, but there's competition out there.
We're in the ballpark against private employers, which I think is really huge for this school district, really huge. But we're not the only school district that's struggling for staffing. I've got some good plans, and hopefully they grow some good legs and we see some movement.
That's our biggest struggle right now, is that piece. Staff are jumping up and taking care of kids, and we're educating students, so it's not like that isn't happening. I don't want you to get that message, I just want you to get the message of we're struggling with not being fully staffed. That's all I had, that was long. Sorry, it was long.
All right, so moving on, board announcements? No. I will say I had a very sad trip to the University of New Hampshire a week and a half ago, dropping off our youngest, who's now a senior. I cried once or twice on the way down and on the way home. But almost the saddest thing was she said, she was also sad, and she's never been sad going back, but she said, well, this was my last summer. So, all of you people that still have young kids, do not waste a moment. Because in the blink of an eye, they're gone. Anyways, that's my announcement. Anyone else?
I'll give something to balance that levity. Starting the school year, my wife, Sarah Brooks, to my knowledge, was the first person in at least my kids' communities, and if not city school, to get all of her paperwork in for all of their activities. She was disappointed that there wasn't a trophy or award for that. She said, a shout out for this.
That's good. That is good.
And that's with barely any help from me. I'm useless for that, so.
Well, Susan, we have 5 grandchildren, and that whole thing starts over. The excitement of they get to lead the play, or
Yeah, someday.
and by but she has funny sayings. Like she calls hot dogs hog logs. Hog logs. And I just think, and she has many like that, but that's just one where she
Yeah.
thinks up a new title.
How old
for
is she?
something. Let's see.
In the ballpark.
She is like 9.
It's pretty good for a 9-year-old.
That's what I'm gonna call him from now on.
That makes a lot more sense.
Anyone else? What was that?
I said, this is Nelda. I wanted to add something to the board announcement.
Go for it.
I just want to go on record saying, oh, we had so much fun tonight. Thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Nelda.
really good to hear your voice.
Yeah. All right, well, if there's no more announcements, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 7:23 p.m.